do you think, Matt? C4 or Ghost?
I don't discriminate.
I don't think I've had a Ghost yet.
Ghost is good, man. It's
Is
so
it?
smooth.
I like C4. No, I'm good.
C4 makes my face tingle. That's why I
Anymore?
like it.
Fuck, dude, it's too early. Come on. All right, guys, we're going to get started today. Just go over some admin stuff. 4 basic safety rules are still in effect. Treat every weapon as if it was loaded, even after you shirt it to be unloaded. Never let your muzzle cover anything you're not willing to destroy. Keep your finger straight off the trigger and outside the trigger guard till you're up on target with the intention to shoot, and then know your target and consider its background. Again, same, if we're be shooting disconnected yard lines for some drills today, if at any point you're on something or somebody has ran over where it's a little bit too close, don't take those shots, right? We're deconflicting and making this safe because of our lateral separation, right? But as long as you're not violating kind of the lane that you're shooting in and you have not breaking 2 of the same safety rules, we won't have any issue. But if any point we're moving and your gun is still loaded, make sure it's on safe, finger straight off the trigger. All right, we're gonna go into like the same progression that we shot yesterday with focusing on predictive shooting as a training tool, right? For me, I think it's one of the best tools to actually stress foundational skills, right? Talk about connection instead of grip, but the hands are doing all the same things, right? My firing hand is holding onto the gun, you know, firm, but not too firm, just where this one, my finger can move very, very quickly. My firing hand is also responsible for almost no force pulling back into my shoulder. All right, move over and point this way. So if you think about that, my non-firing hand is the source of all the control, right, for what's happening above the waist. Where I'll connect to the rifle, you know, for me, I like my buttstock all the way out. It's just the most comfortable thing, puts my firing hand in the most natural position. And then where my non-firing hand is, if I were to shoot a pistol, right, it's the same arm bend that I have, right? I like my elbows in a very neutral position. I know a lot of guys like to push that elbow out, but if I get my elbow way up high and I'm trying to pull back a lot of force, where do I typically pull the gun? I pull it to the left, right? It wants to recoil up and to the right. So then as it's returning, I'm applying so much force to it. What do we typically see with the dot? It comes past the point of aim, right? And that's something that we're going to explore, you know, through this progression. I think what most people will find is that they're trying to hold the gun too hard, right? You don't need a lot to control most of these rifles, all right?
How many of you found yesterday with your handguns like less is more? Yeah, what is that doubly true with this thing?
Yeah, I think with the rifle, it's true. You know, finding that where that right pressure is for you, and it's going to be different for everybody, right? Guys that are really big do less than guys that are really small, right? But most importantly, we still look at assessing connection 3 ways. Consistency, am I doing the same thing every time? Stability, when I set pressures before a drill or when I'm about to shoot, those cannot change while I'm shooting. And then durability, can I maintain that connection to the rifle for longer strings of fire, like 4, 5, 6 shots? All right. So my support hand is just in a really relaxed position. It's comfortable on the gun, right? And I'm not actually applying that much force circumferentially around the grip. I'm pulling the gun straight back into my shoulder, keeping my elbow in a very neutral position. For me, like when we give those commands, you know, shooters ready, stand by. On standby, I'm setting the pressures to shoot, right? That way, when I present the gun, right, I'm able to shoot really aggressively, like right off the bat. What I see a lot of guys do is they're nice and relaxed when they're at a low ready, and now they're trying to, you know, angularly move the gun up to the eye target line and pull it back in all at the same time. To me, you're asking yourself to do too much, right? For guys that carry guns for a living, or if you've ever shot a 2-gun position, if you know you're moving into a position or coming around a corner, an engagement's likely or possible, how connected to the gun are you going to be? Pretty connect, right? Like you're ready to shoot, right? So that you, as soon as targets are available, you're able to start engaging them, right? No difference. We kind of train that into us with that shooters ready, stand by, connect to the gun, and be ready to shoot, right? Now presenting the gun, I need to stop the dot very precisely on target. I can only show you how I do it. For a lot of guys, every body is built differently. The size of your neck, where it's in your shoulder, all of that is going to have some slight variations, but we still don't want to violate major principles of consistency, stability, and durability. For me, I shoot a relatively bladed rifle stance. I want my legs low and wide, and what happens below my waist is separate from what's happening above my waist. I'm always ready to move, and with my legs wide and or my feet wide and my legs loaded, it provides a lot of stability above the waist when I'm shooting. Right? I have the buttstock way deep in my shoulder, and for me, it's pretty lateral. Right? I used to wear kit for a living all the time, so I wanted one position when I was training with kit or without kit. And whether it's a big vest or little vest, I still want this touching my body, because back here in my shoulder is where I'm going to assess connection, right? I don't ever assess the force I'm applying to the gun with my non-firing hand, because what that feels like right now at 8:15 in the morning, it's going to feel different at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when we're tired, right? But this will be consistent, right? And that's what I'm trying to feel. Right, so for me, this would be like a hunt position. My gun is level, maybe slightly dipped. And to get the gun up to my eye target line, all I do is I shrug my shoulder a little bit and I move the gun straight up. So from a low ready position, right, for me, the gun is going to come to this position and elevate her up into my eye target line. What that does for me is I'm not having to stop the gun with any angular movement, right? So any of that bounce that you would see, right, where you try to whip it up, all of that's bled off for me. And that's the only time I'm going to try to introduce tension into my platform above the waist, is that little bit of shrug. I'm not rolling my shoulder forward. I'm just bringing it up to get the gun up to my eye target line where I can still have my head up. My non-firing hand is pulling the gun back in with, kind of light force. What we want to guard against is that our firing hand, when we're shooting real aggressively, doesn't start to take over, right? Because as I pull more into this, what happens to the end of the barrel? It dips down, right? So if we see, guys, it's trying to go up and to the right for right-handed shooters, and I start really bringing it back in, I just start walking rounds down on the target. So again, that consistent, stable connection is what we want. And this, as we go through this progression, I would kind of recommend explore different pressures. Don't shoot everything the same way, right? See, we're going to start at 15 for a few rounds, see what works, what feels good for you. And then when we go back to 20, 30, and 40, where we have to shoot really aggressive, right? Hopefully you've got a good idea on how that connection needs to look.
When you shrug your shoulder, are you just coming straight up, or are you doing anything forward or backward?
No, it's just coming straight up. So from here, I come to level and it just comes up. For me, it works. It's how I'm built, right? That little bit of tension brings the gun straight up to my eye target line.
Are you talking about like rolling your shoulder forward, or asking about?
Well, so like in a bladed, if I came straight up, it would still be. I didn't know if you like roll forward or something like
I mean, if you change anything, it just has to be consistent. I think it's just easier to be consistent if you're just moving on one plane, and then the forward aggressive posture is going to take care of returning the gun, right? If you're standing upright and you just come straight up, that's tough. If you slightly lean forward, come straight up, you know what I mean? Like, that's easier. And then just think, if you try to move up and roll forward, it just has to be the same every time, which is very difficult.
For a lot of, competitive rifle shooters, PCC, they like having it way in the center and they're rolling it forward, right? And that works very, very well. Ideally, yeah, I want the gun as close to midline as I can. For me, in the midline is kits, plates, devices, antennas. There's no place to put the gun where I can actually tell. So that's where I think the competition world and kind of the duty world differ a little bit. So I like it, for me, kind of wide in my shoulder, but more importantly, wherever it positions on your body, we're still assessing the same things, right? I think if you talk about, I'm going to present the gun, roll my shoulder forward, set all this crazy pressure, you can do that consistently with much more work, right? Again, I'm trying to find out what is the absolute minimum that I need to do to get the result that I want. All right, let me make a demonstration real quick. So again, we've got no aiming reference on the targets, right? I've got to find a small spot. I'm paying attention to all the same things we did with the pistol. I'm looking at that spot. I'm aware of the dot, and I'm looking for the dot to track in a consistent and predictable way. Again, I'm doing everything I can below the waist, nice, low, and wide, consistent, stable connection. All right, let's come on down. What I see at 15 is my dot. My dot kind of lifts to 1, goes right to 3, and comes back in from the side, right? Not that that's right or wrong. It's just how I shoot, right? But what I find, if I'm looking to a small spot and I'm not influencing the gun unnecessarily, which I think when guys want to go really fast with the rifle, they start dragging it around, right? All over the target. Let the gun do its thing. The gun is going to come out of lockup. The bolt carrier is going to go into the buffer tube. It's going to be back way before you're ready to shoot, right? If you're not influencing the gun and you have stable pressures, right, you'll get relatively good results. Where we'll see if our pressures are changing, we're going to see that visually first in the sights with our dot, just like with the pistol, not returning over the point of aim and moving past it, right? And if it comes down past for that second shot, where does it go up and recoil from there? I would say a lot of times it comes back left because I'm already pulling it down here. So now I send it to another location. So that's the first cue that you'll pay attention to on the vision side, is that if I don't see a consistent pattern, think about what you're feeling, right? What changed? Because I promise something did, right? If you do no force on the gun and we just put it in a rest, you can just smash that trigger and the rounds go on top of each other, right? It's not until we start influencing the gun, trying to pull it left, get that idea, well, if I just do more, it's somehow going to get a better result, right? We want to be consistent and stable above everything else.
So you guys get what Matt's saying about the tracking pattern. It's going to be different. A big variation with the rifles is going to be the muzzle device and then where you connect it. So you see Matt with the war comp with the rifle out wide. Yours goes out to 3 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it comes to 3 o'clock and back in. As long as it's doing the same thing every time, that means Matt's doing the same thing. If you've got like the 3 prong on this, is snaps up to 1 o'clock the way I shoot it. If I have an A2 cage, it'll like wiggle sideways. You know, if you've got a suppressor, it dulls whatever it's doing, and so on. It's just, it has to be the same thing every time. If it changes, you changed. You changed what you were doing.
And really, it doesn't matter like what the device is, right? The principles are the same, right? If I grab your gun with an A2, I'll shoot the same thing, right? Shoot a couple, yep, this is how it moves. Now I just want that pattern in a consistent and predictable way. I don't care if it comes to the right. A comp gun, right, is just going to go side to side, right? Maybe even push down a little bit, right? But now it's just, it really comes down to like, are you influencing the gun throughout the shooting process? And that's what we have to tie cause and effect together, right? You're going to see it first. The sight, the optic is going to tell you, hey, this is what it did. And then you try to apply it to, okay, what did I feel? What changed in my connection? You have to, there's a certain amount of volume we have to shoot for you to discover that. Guys shooting unmagnified, pretty easy, maintain target focus. Guys shooting the LPVOs, I'd shoot this on 1 power, right, with that, with the red dot on, and it's all you're dealing then is with just a little bit of parallax. I'm still looking around that optic with my non-dominant eye, and I'm picking the dot or the reticle up with my dominant eye, and you just have to get used to that visual irritation of what you see in terms of parallax. If you've got a 45 mount, I would shoot some iterations with that, some without, because as soon as I flip that gun at 45, it starts to behave differently, doesn't it? Right? And one thing I've noticed too is a common mistake I just recently experienced. It almost made me want to sell this fucking thing. Slide over. So when you shoot a lot of night vision, right? I'm going to have this gun canted to the side, right? And the gun's going to come up, and I shoot pretty much from this position, right? I try to get my chin on the gun as some sort of cheek weld, but the gun's coming back in, but I'm shooting very reactive in nature. But what do you think this little bit of cant does at 30 and 40? It does POI, right? If you're used to like laying, if you've ever shot with the gun at 45, it changes where your point of aim needs to be. You have to favor the magazine side, right? And you'll see that at speed. I was shooting doubles at 40, and I'm shooting a group, you know, about this big, and it's 50% Charlies, 50% alphas, and I'm not seeing it in the sight. Over and over and over. Check 0, it's still good, right? Actually put it on film and realized, right, I had the slightest little cant in the gun like this, right? And we have to pay attention to that when we're do the Charlies really matter at that pace, at that distance? No, they score fine for anything, right? For application, for competition, it scores just fine. But in terms of awareness and demonstrating, am I doing all the foundational things well? Like, I was completely oblivious that that gun was canted, right? And sometimes putting yourself on film and watching it, you know, the first thing you'll be like, is that what I look like when I shoot?
Shit's depressing, dude.
Gross. You know, looks slow. You know, but having the gun vertical, right, doing all of those things at that near the technical things from the foundational skills at that near perfect level, that's what we're trying to get through this progression, right? And then understanding how connection is for you, right? Being able to articulate it, constantly articulating to yourself, what did I see in terms of the dot tracking pattern? What did I feel in the connection? And then the target confirms if what you felt and saw is what actually happened. Any questions for this?
Right. So just like yesterday, when you pull the trigger on doubles, it is not tied to a sight picture. You're going to shoot faster than you can consciously react to the dot for each round, assess the pattern. And again, it's okay to be disappointed but not surprised.
Yep.
That's the rules when we come down and assess the targets.
So with the pistol, right, we all believe with every shot we lose the dot, right? You guys know that, right? Whether you believe it or not, it's true, right? As soon as the gun elevates to like 2 degrees, the dot leaves the window for almost every pistol. And in recoil, it goes much more. Awareness is that it happens for such a quick amount of time that it comes back. We don't ever lose the dot with the rifle, right? So now we can actually pay attention as an aiming strategy is the pattern that the reticle is making on the target, right? And it can be a color, but if I see that pattern, right, that's the visual cue to keep shooting. So doubles with a rifle, yeah, I don't want you to over aim that second shot because we're testing connection to the rifle and your connection to the target, but the sight, you will continuously see it, right, at a pace. And the pace I want guys to go is about as fast as you can pull the trigger, right, for all the yard lines. Does that make sense? Don't fall into the habit where you're trying to focus on the outcome and now it's like, boom, boom, oh, fuck, and now boom, boom. Like, you're just shooting reactively at that point, right? For this exercise, that's not the intent, okay? All right, let's come up to 15. Get that.